Welcome, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of DX Talks, produced by IHS Markit. My name is David Hicks. I'm Senior Vice President of Upstream Energy at IHS Markit, and I'm thrilled today to have Todd Mostak, who's the CEO of OmniSci, and Ali Sangster, who leads our analytical strategic development here within our Energy and Natural Resources group. Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing?
Hi, David.
Great.
Hey,
Hello.
Good. Great. Well, so in this episode, we're going to just focus a little bit on the application, the latest application of technologies within the space, within the E&P space. So we talk a lot about the digital transformation. We talk about the increasing amount of data that we have, which is sort of a two-edged sword in that it's an overwhelming amount of data that we have at our fingertips. But on the other hand, if we do a better job of managing it and accessing all of it, it opens up incredible new insights for the industry. And of course, as we know, particularly in 2020 and in the middle of the pandemic, the energy industry, particularly the upstream energy, has been under a tremendous number of challenges. And of course, becoming more efficient and making decisions faster and making better decisions is really what it's all about, not just today, but maybe for the foreseeable future for this industry. So with that introduction, Todd, let me just turn it to you and tell us a little bit about what you're doing with OmniSci. And again, you're working with large amounts of data and visualizations. What have you seen now in the past few years in the midst of this, and what advancements are we really looking at now?
Yeah, thanks, David, and thanks for having me again. Really excited to be here. Yeah, I think, people have been talking about the promise of big data for some time now, at least a decade, right, with the advent of Hadoop and other technologies of that ilk. But, frankly, even a decade later, people aren't able to exploit the true potential of big data. And why is that? It's essentially because there's the data out there, they've learned how to store it, right? But actually analyzing that in a timely fashion, and by timely, I mean in the time that you have to make a business decision, we're still not there yet, right? And I think, if you look at the reasons why, I mean, of course, some of it is there's always IT challenges, there's data management challenges, right? And those are by no means easy. But even if you nail those, some of this data can be massive, right? You can have massive data sets, you have diverse data sets, and you want to bring all of that together and allow typically a human, right? A human in the loop to actually explore this data, to get insight, to make better decisions. In energy, that could be whether it's well planning or A&D, right? But a telco could be using this to optimize their network, to plan their network, to run better campaigns, to get more customers. And so really the difference between the data haves and the data have-nots is often not the data as much these days, because there's a plethora of data out there. There are firms like IHS who have best of breed data sets, but it's a matter of actually getting insight from that data. So OmniSci effectively leverages modern hardware, GPUs and CPUs, to allow analysts, subject matter experts, data scientists, engineers to get insights from their data at the speed of curiosity, at the speed of thought. Billions of records, real-time slice and dice, and they can drill down and find that needle in the haystack or that critical insight that's necessary for making the business decision.
Yeah, that's great. And Ali, from your perspective then, you've been working a little bit with this platform and technology, but you've got a lot of experience in the upstream space and working with a lot of data. What's your view of how things are moving forward?
I think it's amazing because what something like OmniSci allows us to do is bring different parts of the energy business together in order to approach problems in a completely different way. So with the great amounts of just different data points, let's just say for even historical data. So in order to really understand the present and predict the future, you have to understand the past. So being able to bring in your full historical data sets, understand trends over time, and then bring in other parts of the business. So for example, weather, what impact does that have? Or, different, with different price changes through time, or, the way that commodity prices move up and down. How do those types of pricing fluctuations impact decisions that a lot of these operators and a lot of our customers are trying to make. And so it gives us the ability to really bring it all together in order to make the types of decisions really informed and educated decisions. So I mean, that's the part for, I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Can we talk just for a second about the different kinds of data as well? So are we talking traditional well information, production information? When you talk about bringing more data together, what are we talking about?
So imagine well production, completion design. So being able to interactively work within the different types of data variables to understand how those could impact production. So even down to permitting activity, rigs. It's with something like Omnisci, it also allows for different types of data. So you can have real-time data that's streaming in. You can have telematics data, spatial temporal. So you have that time and space. So the different types of data, being able to track real time and movement, and then have all of your, historical production well completion at the same time. It allows you to do things that we've never been able to do before. And that's the part that's, I think, really revolutionary in a sense, because the types of decisions, the types of analytics, the types of models that you can actually embed within the application or within Omnisci, you're able to interactively work with the data and run your what if scenarios. So especially when it comes to planning. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And Todd, so you mentioned telecom and some other spaces. Is there anything particularly interesting or different about working in the energy area and the upstream space that you have seen?
Well, I think it's a great question, David. I think one of the interesting things is that oil and gas has been an early adopter of cutting edge technology. I think people see that there's tremendous ROI on being able to better leverage data in particular. And, the use of GPUs, for example, one of the first mainstays outside of graphics was in oil and gas and the energy industry. And later on, they went on to transform automotive and a number of different industries. I think the other thing that's really exciting about oil and gas, particularly for us, and Ali hit on it, is the spatiotemporal aspect of the data. Right, almost all of the data has some place on a map, and it's at some point in time. And I think this is a really underserved area of the market or use case from conventional analytics technologies, right, which are great at maybe rolling up data into a bar graph. But when you want to see that data in a granular fashion on a map and animate that over time to see the changes in, say, production over time, or to look at 3D seismic data, they really just can't scale or do that. Similarly, there's GIS technologies like Esri, but they also can't scale to the, often, you can take survey data and it can be hundreds of billions of records. Honestly, it can be many, many terabytes, right? So new technologies are needed that can actually not only analyze big data, but put it in context and space and time. And I think that's really exciting about the energy industry.
Yeah, that's great. This is fantastic. We could obviously talk for a lot longer on this topic, and maybe we will follow this up and go a little bit deeper. But I want to thank both of you for joining us. And again, what I think our summary here is, in order to be successful in the upstream E&P space going forward, in what is probably going to be a challenging environment, you have to be as efficient as possible. You have to work with as much data as possible and different types of data than perhaps we worked with in the past in siloed groups. And working on top of a platform that visualizes this data in new and faster ways through the Omnisci platform is one great example of that. So thanks very much. Thanks, everybody, and look forward to talking again on the next DX Talks. Thank you.
Thanks so much.